It's 5 o'clock in London, it's midday in New York, midnight in Hong Kong, 2 a.m. in Sydney, 9 a.m. in San Francisco, and 9:30 at night in Mumbai. Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world today. My name is Patrick L. Young. The IPO-VID live stream, series 24, episode number 5, that in the aggregate makes for episode 143, starts here. And we begin in court. The Archegos trial has begun. Whatever the judgment on Bill Huang, the market conclusion is clearly one of how well the CCP system carried on when one $36 billion fund imploded through excess leverage in total return swaps during the COVID hiccups in markets. Meanwhile, the London Stock Exchange Group have trumpeted a British pound billion buyout. But it even couldn't do that on the London Stock Exchange itself, preparing to use over-the-counter measures. Surely that's a damning indictment of the market's woes. In Hong Kong, a big conference brought Hong Kong exchanges and Saudi Tadawul closer together. Of course, both markets that we know very, very well from this program. We had indeed a great show talking about Tadawul just a few weeks back with Roland Bellegarde. The two dynamic markets are looking to the future. What's the biggest conclusion? It's a very worrying one on the day that we see the Financial Times trying to say that European Union growth is being propelled forward by 0.3%. Surely not propelled. Surely it's not piffled forward by 0.3%. The European Union is becoming a transatlantic flyover state between Asia and the Middle East and the United States of America. In the United States of America, alas, the CFTC under Chairman Rostin Benham continues its disappointing run. Now it's banning event contracts, which shows a cocktail of cowardice or laziness, according to whichever correspondent you've been reading today, or simply anti-market incapacity. Can we perhaps make the prediction market opportunity that there may be a resignation in the future of the CFTC chairmanship? Watch this space. To watch this space today, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a cracking guest and a fabulous show altogether. We're going to be looking at a Botswana rising with Thapelo Tsheole. Thapelo has been, until just weeks ago, the chief executive of the Botswana Stock Exchange. He was in charge of that for some 8 years, with well over a decade of experience working for the Botswana Stock Exchange during the course of, good grief, more than 17 years working for the Central Bank of Botswana and the Stock Exchange itself. Hugely qualified in financial markets, both from universities and, of course, also the University of Life. His experience in markets stretches as far as capital markets, forex, structured products, and indeed financial markets regulation. After spending more than a decade with the Botswana Stock Exchange, Thapelo is a firm believer in the development of the financial market in Botswana and Africa, as well as the importance to economic growth of Botswana and Botswana's market, and of course that all-important factor of stability in Africa and across the region, as well as within the nation of Botswana itself. He was awarded the Presidential Order of Meritorious Service by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, in September 2018. Thapelo serves on a number of exciting committees and other organizations across the world. And let's hear from the man himself, Thapelo Tsheole. Welcome to the show. Here we are to discuss Botswana rising. Well, maybe I've given the game away. Welcome to the show. Where in the world are you today?
I'm in Botswana today. I'm right in Botswana. I haven't left for my my next opportunity.
Fantastic. So we'll get on to your next opportunity in a little while with a bit of luck, but you've been thoroughly immersed in the Botswana Stock Exchange market, indeed all of the exchanges of Africa over the course of the last decade. We heard, of course, from your counterpart just a couple of months ago in Namibia being a massive nation with remarkably too small number of people. Give us a little overview of Botswana and its capital markets, please, Thapelo. Oh dear, we seem to have a slight freeze there at this juncture from Thapelo, coming to us all live from Botswana in Africa. Not exactly sure what's happened to the production. Hopefully he's going to be back with us in just a minute. Tell you what, let's do something different. We were going to talk about this in a little while. There's been... Oh, have we got Thapelo back? Let me see. I hear something in my ear from production as we're going on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this show this week live, then you can clearly tell that it is live TV that we're doing right at this moment. Hello, Thapelo. How are you today? Tell us a little bit about Botswana. Well, that's unfortunate, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to try and re-establish that connection to Thapelo while the production team are doing that. Let me tell you a little bit about something that we were going to discuss later in the show. We've been doing a series of short videos in recent times, and they can be found if you're able to watch these things on TikTok, as well as on YouTube Shorts and Instagram. We're exploring all sorts of aspects of the worlds of markets and other things that are going on in the world. And to that end, during the course of this week, we published something which I thought was very interesting, looking at the wonderful world of Thailand and some fascinating issues that have been pertaining there related to corruption. And hopefully we'll be able to watch that video in just a moment. Meanwhile, in Big World, in Thailand, the grim face of corruption was visible when somebody did a little investigating into the accounts of 4 Thai civil servants who'd somehow squirreled away an eye-popping $57 million in their respective bank accounts. The average civil servant in Thailand makes around $11,500 per annum. A government official memorably noted their listed assets, including their bank accounts, did not match their government incomes. For more in Big World, like or follow. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the issues with the wonderful world of Thai corruption, not unique, of course, across the world, purely to Thailand, something that happens in many nations around the world. One of the things happening actually this week, which is a very, very exciting piece of news for us, is we're about to celebrate our 11th birthday, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed, Exchange Invest, the water cooler of the Bourse business. We're reaching, well, that age where I suppose we'd be looking to try and go to another level of schooling. We're hoping to manage to help educate the world as we go forward with everything that we can talk about markets. It's a very, very interesting and dynamic world we're in at the moment. And of course, the most exciting area to be in is the epicenter of e-commerce, because what's better than the exchange model at this juncture? That is surely the most exciting element of what goes on in the world of exchanges and markets. And indeed, when we look across at what's happening in the world of all sorts of aspects of exchanges, financial markets, e-commerce, etc., we have a fascinating opportunity where the model of exchanges is genuinely that which is at the epicenter of what goes on in this world. Now, we're trying to re-establish a connection at the moment to Thapelo in Africa. I'm sorry that we're having this slight foible. If you get any comments or questions, please do leave them for us. Thank you very, very much, incidentally, to all those people who were watching last week. We had an absolutely record response to what was a marvelous conversation altogether, which was with the founder and CEO of Blue Ocean, its president, Brian Hindman. He has been discussing what was really, really exciting, the orientation of US stock market trading towards the United States of America and things that are going on there. That made for a thoroughly intriguing question and answer session. I do recommend you go back and spot that in our highlights, because we're coming to you today live discussing Botswana Rising with Thapelo Tsheole on the different channels. At the moment, we're on LinkedIn. We're also on YouTube and X, and we'll be bringing this recording to you on Facebook shortly. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Slight foible at the moment where we seem to have lost Thapelo just minutes into the broadcast, which is rather unfortunate. We're trying to achieve something with him to try and get the conversation going again. And I can see there's a huge number of different things. So let's have another short video, ladies and gentlemen, actually, and we have just teed up something to discuss an interesting aspect of what goes on in the United States of America.
Precise figures vary by source, but these give you a flavor of the picture. Various sources have been used in this video.
Meanwhile, in Big World,
here's a fascinating comparison. USA total liquid wealth is $67 trillion US. China's total liquid wealth is $27 trillion US. China has 4.17 times the population of the USA. That's 1.4 billion Chinese versus 342 million Americans. Global GDP is, by the way, around $105 trillion, of which China and the USA alone amount for something like 40%, depending on what statistics you use. The United States of America, by the way, boasts 9,850 centimillionaires. That's people worth $100 million or more. 37% of the world's millionaires live in the United States of America. By various accounts, there are at least 25 million American millionaires. That's more than the entire population of Florida.
For more in Big World, like or follow. Well, that's an incredibly interesting discussion about what is the situation of pure wealth in the United States of America. Not difficult to see how they amount to being 53 or 54% of the entire world's stock markets with that huge investor organization. Now, I'm hoping that Thapelo can hear me at the moment. I believe we're having some difficulties with the video connection. Thapelo, are you with us? Well, unfortunately, at the moment, I don't seem to be able to hear Thapelo. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell this is the perils of these sorts of live shows. While we're working on that, let's try and have another short video while the team have another possibly final attempt to try and get some life into the show. I'm so sorry that things just aren't working out with the excellent former CEO of the Botswana Stock Exchange, Thapelo Tsheole. So, one of the issues that I suppose is most interesting when we're looking around about markets is always the political cycle. And as we all know, this year is quite incredible. Out of 7.5 billion people on Earth, something like several billion of them, if not 4 billion in total, are going to be voting during the course of this year. We've got European Union elections coming up in a little bit over a month. Of course, there's the American presidential elections, as the world's richest nation, as we just seen it, is going to the polls. And then there's the big daddy. I mean, the big daddy in terms of the number of people going to the polls. The world's largest democracy, India, is going to be voting in the near future. In fact, it already is. They've got a series of different electoral processes happening. I think 6 or 7 waves. And here's a little short video we made about some of the idiosyncrasies of that fascinating process.
Meanwhile, in Big World, the Indian general elections began April 19th with phase 1 of 7. The process involves electing 543 members of the 18th Lok Sabha, concluding June the 1st with results on June the 4th. PM Narendra Modi of the BJP is seeking a third consecutive term from an electorate of 968 million individuals out of a population of 1.4 billion. There are 18 million first-time voters. That's equivalent to the population of Guatemala, the world's 70th most populous nation, while almost 195 million voters are aged 20 to 29, larger than the total population of Bangladesh. In other words, the under 30 vote in India alone is equivalent to the 8th largest country in the world.
For more in Big World, like or follow. How interesting. Also got the world's highest voting station, I do believe, something like 4,000 meters in the air. We were looking at that last week, and all manner of other fascinating idiosyncrasies with the whole Indian electoral process. Quite incredible, the idea of taking 1 billion people to the electoral polls and trying to manage to get them all to vote at one time. Everything done on digital machines as well. There doesn't seem to be a hanging Chad problem in India, similar to the American voting problems that we saw, of course, during the George Bush era. But nonetheless, we do have some fascinating issues arising all around the world in that respect. Of course, talking about the hanging Chad era, that takes us back to some fascinating American psephological electoral issues from years gone by. And I suppose that's a very appropriate moment to start considering this week's Book of the Week, because, ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, within Exchange Invest during the course of our weekend edition, which is absolutely free, you can sign up for that at exchangeinvest.com, we have a Book of the Week. And this week's Book of the Week is The Last Best Hope, a history of American realism. It's a brilliant exploration of American history and contemporary conservative politics that provides a practical, realist foreign policy for a new era of American political organization. Lest you don't read him already, John Holzman, the author, is that thing we absolutely love in geopolitical analysis, a winner and not a windbag. His record is second to none in accurately assessing outcomes, and that makes The Last Best Hope a must-read as the neocon delusion dies and the failures of democratic foreign policy are writ large from the fringes of the US border outwards into the world. It's time for realism, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly, I think you'll believe so once you've read this fantastic book, The Last Best Hope, by author John Hulsman. Absolutely a must read this week. Really, really worth a look. And you can pick up more details about our books of the week from the likes of our website, exchangeinvest.com. As I say, the weekend newsletter is completely free to read, and that gives you a heads up as to what's going to be our next book of the week. That'll be coming out on Friday, Saturday of this week. Thereafter, we have got a multiple of opportunities whereby you can read Exchange Invest, of course, the bulletin of the Bourse business. One of the bourses we talk about very often is, of course, Botswana. And I do believe there seems to be a little noise in my ear. I'm hoping that we can hear Thapelo Tsheole, who was the CEO of the Botswana Bourse until very, very recently after 8 years in office. Thapelo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear
Fabulous.
you. I can see you.
I'm so sorry that we've lost video to you, Thapelo, but at the same time, we can hear you, and that's the most important thing. So tell us a little bit about Botswana, the country, and indeed its capital markets, please.
Yeah, Botswana as a country, it's a fast-growing economy with GDP of about close to $20 billion US, mainly derived from minerals, especially diamonds, and the other sectors like the financial sector, which is rapidly growing, and also the retail sector is growing quite significantly. But most importantly, the capital markets, we have a thriving stock exchange with a market capitalization of about $60 billion. You'll be surprised the market cap is more than the GDP. Is because there are some dual listings from Toronto, there are dual listings from London, there are dual listings from Australia, mainly because of the conducive atmosphere that we managed to develop as a stock exchange. We've been able to develop a stock exchange that is competitive in comparison to other stock exchanges, and therefore able to attract some of the dual listings into our market. But most importantly, also we have a very strong banking sector, well functioning, and also a stable and freely convertible currency. Therefore, we are able to have fast developing capital markets.
You know, I've got to tell you a story about myself here, Thapelo, because over 20 years ago, actually closer to 25 years ago, I was in South Africa during the time of great, exciting, positive emotions about South Africa. And it was fascinating because I must admit in my ignorance, I mean, I knew Botswana, I knew of Botswana, I knew where it was, but I really had no idea of the capital market vision. And I remember then sitting in workshops organized by the Banking Council of South Africa and the SAFEX Futures Exchange and the Bond Exchange. And we were talking about the future of the region. And they were all saying at the time, watch what's happening in Botswana because it's really, really well organized. And I think that's a fascinating blueprint because you show that with the dual listings you've attracted. So tell me, I mean, it's been a long-term vision. It's been going on for as long as your career or longer. What did Botswana do right, in addition to freely convertible currency, that has made it so attractive?
Yeah, I think Botswana been a stable democracy relatively to a number of countries. It was able to create the right investment environment in terms of politically stable country and prudent management of the economy as a country, and also to be able to manage itself as a country and also the general economy quite very well. And therefore, I think we are also very fortunate because we did not experience the mineral curse. We found diamonds, and then we channeled a lot of our diamonds revenue to development, to develop the country infrastructure, to develop the human resource of the country, and also the people, and also to equally, as much as possible, spread developments across the country, Botswana. So those are some of the things that we managed to do quite well as a country.
Yeah, I think you raise a very, very key point there, which is that Botswana's economic development, I should say, has been remarkably egalitarian. It has not followed, say, the tragic situation of some countries in Africa, in particular in the 1970s or even the Middle East, where you saw a very, very small oligarchy becoming obscenely wealthy with a lot of other people living all the way through poverty. And actually, Botswana has a remarkably reasonable living standard right across the entirety of the country.
Yes, that's very true. And you realize that, majority of the revenues that we got from the minerals have actually been used in educating a lot of Botswana, including myself. I mean, I went to secondary school, or I went to school, even primary school and university, for free. All my education was actually funded by the government of Botswana. And that's where majority of the money went to. So we will see that there's a lot of social services that are provided across the country to the citizens of Botswana, in order to try to share the cake from the mineral proceeds.
That's very, very interesting. We're sitting here today, ladies and gentlemen, talking to Thapelo Tsheole. He used to be the chief executive of the Botswana Stock Exchange. He's been a key player in the remarkable rise of the Botswana capital markets. And I think it's interesting, Thapelo, you talk about this, the egalitarianism, the way that money has been channeled into education. I suppose there's one good thing for Botswana. There was also one challenge for Botswana when it was growing. I mean, as I mentioned, we were talking Namibia just a few weeks ago, and in many ways, Botswana and Namibia are quite similar in certain respects. One of them is in your sheer size. I mean, obviously, Namibia is absolutely enormous, what, 900,000 square kilometers or something. But I think a lot of people would be quite surprised to realize that if my memory serves me correct, I mean, Botswana is about 600,000 square kilometers, which is about half as large again as somewhere like Zimbabwe.
Yes, that's true. But you realize that Botswana itself, as a country, got independence relatively at the same time with other countries in the region. But we are quite fortunate enough because we didn't have to go to war to get any independence. We got our independence freely, unlike the rest of the other countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Namibia. So you realize that we had a comparative advantage right from the onset in terms of comparing to our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. And so, I mean, tell us a little bit about this financial center, because, I mean, essentially the vision for the Botswana Financial Center was already taking place, as I say, yes. 2025, somewhere between 20 and 25 years ago, when I remember working with regulators in South Africa and so on then. I mean, it has been a hugely long-term vision. How has that been affected over time, and how have you managed to balance the growth of foreign investment, foreign banks, and also local companies and local banks, brokers, etc.?
I think it brought us on the cornerstone of the Botswana's economic structure, in terms of we from the onset chose a free market economy as a country, and therefore under a free market economy where we did not have barriers to entry to foreign investment. And we also did not too much overprotect the entry into the local economy. That is why we now were able to have a thriving financial services center, because we allowed various players with different expertise to come and play in the market, and then aid the development of the local economy and the local financial services center. And it was quite very clear that, with the strong mineral proceeds, it was also very easy for us to develop the financial sector, because, in the mineral proceeds, there is much more liquidity in terms of the money. And then we are also able to make the right decisions in terms of to fully utilize or properly utilize all the money that we got from the diamonds, and also to be able to diversify the economy in other sectors, like you rightly point out, the financial services center in Botswana, which is quite well developed. And it's well developed because it's a good mixture of the local financial institutions, and also we allowed a significant entrance of the foreign or international banks. And this we're able to add to the development of the market.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that struck me at the time that I was doing some work in South Africa, as I say, 20 something years ago, was how Botswana had been very, very clear in talking to banks in South Africa, banks in London, anybody who was interested in doing business in Africa, and inviting them to come to Botswana, which I think was a very, very interesting and a very brave move at the same time, because let's face it, although we're talking about a country that's pretty much twice the size of Poland, to put that into perspective for our European viewers in terms of geography, the population of Botswana is rather like Namibia, remarkably small given your geography. I mean, it's about 2.5 million people, if memory serves me correctly. So it's about the same population as a Baltic state in Europe, or Northern Ireland, where I come from. You're slightly larger than Northern Ireland, I think, but yet in a very, very vast amount of area.
Yes, Botswana's population is actually very small, and even the growth of the population is quite very small. There are about only 2.3 million people in Botswana, and for the size of a country like France in terms of the land mass, or Texas in the US for the size of the land mass, and you realize that it's vastly populated in terms of government need to incur a lot of expenses to take infrastructure to some other parts of the far parts of the economy, where sometimes you realize that it's actually a social decision than an economic decision in terms of distribution of the resources around the country, because it's thinly spread. You need to go further on the western side, and also some parts are a little bit of a desert, and it's a little bit expensive for services to go into that area, and even telecommunication services. But government have taken a deliberate decision to actually spread the development, be it roads, water, telecommunication, and internet across the various parts of the country, despite the cost or the returns that can be realized by government in spreading those resources.
It's fabulous. It's really, really fabulous altogether. So tell me, I mean, Thapelo, we've talked about Botswana. We've had an overview. You yourself mentioned how the prosperity that's flowed into the country helped with your education. So you were educated, you're a young man. How do you come out, and what drives you into being involved in financial markets?
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised. I was a science student from school, but mainly because when we grew up, we were told that the most intelligent student in school should do sciences. I only changed from doing sciences at the university. At the university, I chose social sciences because I developed so much interest in social sciences when I was doing my national service. Back then, during our time, after you finish your high school, you had to take a gap year to do community service. And during my gap year, in terms of doing community service, I realized that, I came into contact with some people who have done social sciences. They explained to me, and I fell in love with social sciences, especially economics. And I ended up pursuing a career in economics, which I've enjoyed over 24 years now. And I'm still enjoying it. And I channeled all my efforts in developing myself in that regard. And I've enjoyed doing a tremendous work in the economics field, especially financial markets, because I drifted from the general economics to the financial markets, or to the capital markets, which I'm still highly involved in. Even for the future, I'll still be a capital markets or financial markets person.
That's wonderful. And it's really, really interesting. And actually, we've got a question for you, Thapelo, to discuss Botswana. It's come in via LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I can't see who's talking to us on LinkedIn today. Really appreciate the question. Hello, Thapelo. Great to hear your insights from Africa. Can you elaborate on the specific technologies that are driving the nation's growth, and how the Botswana Stock Exchange has been leveraging them to attract new investors?
Yeah, in terms of technologies, I think government have taken a deliberate decision, and it actually is an agenda that is led by the president under one of his themes, which is called digitization of the economy. And you realize that government have actually invested a lot in terms of infrastructure, be it internet and Wi-Fi services across the country, are very enormous. Be it the introduction of, every student in secondary school in Botswana, every student is given a laptop. That's the basic type of investment that also is very crucial. And you realize that investment or technology, especially internet across the country, is easily accessible. The mobile phone outreach in the country is very enormous. And when we have all this investment in terms of the gateways for people to actually to access internet, to access the telecommunication industry, it now gives the basis for companies to leverage on this for growth. There's a growth of the electronic money in Botswana, where people just send money electronically. It's been growing quite significantly, and also this aid payments across the country quite significantly, and all this to the growth of the economy, because payments are easy to be made, goods and services can be easily accessed and paid for. And as the Botswana Stock Exchange, we now also develop the state-of-art, or acquired the state-of-art trading systems. We no longer use the type of trading where brokers come to the market to do the open cry type of system. They remotely connect from their systems. We have a dematerialized holding of shares by the Central Security Depository, which is a world-class, well-rated depository. And also all these measures also makes us to be able to do some risk management in terms of the way we do our business at the BSE. And this was quite evident even during COVID. I mean, no one told COVID was coming, but we never stopped trading during COVID. We never stopped settling during COVID. This is one of the things, or many other things, that we took advantage of, the growth in specific technologies that we also acquired in order to survive the pandemic, especially as an example.
That's fascinating. That's really, really interesting. So tell me a little bit, let's dig into this just a second. The Botswana Stock Exchange, which you were running, you mentioned the CSD and so on. How is the Botswana Stock Exchange structured in terms of ownership? And indeed, then what assets does it have? Does it own the CSD, or is that separate?
Yeah, I think we came through a transition of demutualization, which I completed in 2018. We demutualized, and Botswana Stock Exchange was actually registered as a company limited by shares. In the process, the government of Botswana, because of the heavy investment in terms of this acquisition of the automated trading system, the Central Security Depository back then, and also back then the BSE was actually not making enough money to sustain itself, and therefore the government had to use government resources to sustain the exchange. We then converted all the government cash injections into the BSE to shareholding. That is why the BSE actually now is owned 76% by government, owned 5% by BSE staff members, and the rest of the ownership is about 18.3% is owned by the brokers who are the members of the exchange in that regard. And therefore, the other aim, which is we are in the process of, is to self-list the BSE on the exchange. And when we self-list, government is going to be reducing their shareholding to either sell to other members of the public or to other investors. And it will actually diversify the shareholding of the Botswana Stock Exchange. The BSE currently, as it is structured, owns the CSD. So the CSD is a company incorporated under the laws of Botswana, and is 100% owned by the stock exchange. And the stock exchange is owned by various shareholding. And therefore, as the market develops and mutate, we'll still be looking at the shareholding of both the exchange and the CSD itself.
That's very good. I think that's very encouraging. You've got a fabulous vertical. As you mentioned, it's also dematerialized. It's all electronic. You mentioned the fact that you've got a fully electronic trading system. Was that developed by yourselves, or did you buy that from a vendor? Sorry, just to clarify.
We use a trading system supplied by London Stock Exchange Group.
Good. Okay. Yes, I remember. Now I remember. Sorry, my memory's failing me. So you use an LSEG, and in fact, it's running, I think, somehow or other related to what is also running in Johannesburg, if my memory serves me
It's
correctly.
exactly the same version.
It's considered. Yes, that's a very, very clever idea, because it obviously gives you a lot of flexibility, and you've got state-of-the-art technology from LSEG, which is very, very beneficial altogether, which is really, really fabulous. Now we got a bunch of questions coming in. We've also got a great comment coming in a moment from John Hulsman. But first of all, let's go to Rombeat. And Rombeat has asked us a magnificent question. Let me just put that on screen. Western stock exchanges are facing challenges from new digital asset exchanges. How is the Botswana Stock Exchange approaching this challenge, and how can it position itself to remain relevant in the future, Thapelo?
Yeah, it's quite a very intelligent and brilliant question, and quite very relevant. And one of the strategic initiatives that we have undertaken as the BSE is that we have actually made ourselves to embrace innovation, and also to be a very innovative stock exchange. This is in terms of acquiring the latest technologies that we use, because apart from the automated trading system and the CSD, we also have a lot of underlying technology providers in terms of data provision. We provide data to a lot of other people, which we have monetized in order to create a very strong base or strategic position for the BSE. Number one, we are also partnering with a lot of other institutions like Risk Insight. Risk Insight is a South African company that actually ranks ESG ratings across the market. We've brought them in Botswana market to do a lot of risk rating or ESG rating for Botswana listed entities. So the strategic initiatives that we have taken in Botswana, or strategic position that we have taken in Botswana to remain relevant, is that we partner with a lot of all these digital providers or innovators in order to mutate, or in order to increase our presence, or in order to increase our innovation as the BSE. So we leverage on the brand of the BSE to partner with other service providers to actually diversify our services, and also to augment our services provision.
Fabulous. It's really, really encouraging. It's really exciting to hear that bracing digital vision of the future. Thank you so much, Thapelo. I'm going to let you have a rest for just a second, because I want to go to, well, we'll go in a moment to a very interesting question from a woman on it. But first of all, we've got a response from our Book of the Week author, John Hulsman. Delighted to see that in real time we can have the digital world connecting us between where I am sitting today in the Caribbean, and also Thapelo in Botswana, and indeed where John Hulsman is. I believe that he's probably sitting at home in Milan at this moment in time. Thanks ever so much for the shameless plug. So happy The Last Best Hope is doing so well. It's a book whose time has come. I wholeheartedly agree, John. It's a fabulous book, and it is absolutely precisely timed. Thank you for your stalwart support, and see you next time I'm over. I look forward to seeing you sometime in the future, wherever that might be, John, whether we are paths cross in the UK, Europe, or indeed perhaps in North America at some stage. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, go read The Last Best Hope. And if you want to keep abreast of what's going on in the world of macro geopolitics, there is only one thing which I read religiously all of the time from the many ranks of Substackers and different information providers out there across the world, and that is John Hulsman. Catch it on Substack. It's a really, really great service, and a perfect complement, I may say, so to Exchange Invest, which is, of course, the bulletin of the Bourse business. Now, we're here today, ladies and gentlemen, talking about Botswana rising. It's certainly been an incredible tale. Botswana knocking in many years where GDP has been exceeding even that of the prodigious economy of China. Double-digit growth has been going on in many years. Fascinating to discuss that with Thapelo Tsheole. Thapelo is with us right now, and very interesting because we've been talking about technology, Thapelo, and that brings us, I suppose, to the other key factor, which is always a worry: financial literacy. And Women on It have asked us a question. Thank you very much, Women on It. Financial literacy is a key factor in developing a strong stock market. What initiatives has the Botswana Stock Exchange been taking to improve financial literacy amongst the population of Botswana?
Yeah, quite a very relevant question. And when I took over as the CEO of Botswana Stock Exchange 8 years ago, One of the things that I deliberately intended are going to be my legacy was to actually do a lot of financial literacy and also to take and onboard a lot of Botswana to the market. When I took over, there were only 23,000 locals in Botswana who are participating in the market. 23,000 by Botswana population. I mean, we'll make it the figures. But right now, as I leave the BSE, I left about more than 100,000 investors. So you can see in 8 years, we're able to develop the number of retail investors or Botswana participating in the market by more than 500%. That is actually a very great number. Some of the initiatives that we have been doing is that we've been holding some open days forum in the cornerstone, in all corners of Botswana. We're going around the country, inviting people and teaching them for free about Botswana stock market. We also have some student competitions. It used to be in a quiz format where students come together and compete and converge at the capital city and compete. Right now, we have digitized it. It's now an online platform, a stock market simulator, which we launched 2 months ago. Students are given a virtual portfolio, and then they compete and simulate the live trading environment in the market. And this competition is still ongoing for the next 3 months, which is one of the issues that answers the previous question on digital technologies that are actually taking place. And one of the other things that we do is that in Botswana, we have made it deliberate to offer financial literacy and financial programs for free. And we have been doing this for a very long time. That is why we've been able to bring or build around a very strong retail participation that contributes to the turnover of about close to 8 or 12% of the total turnover of the market every year, which I think, if you look at the emerging market standard, is about 5%. And therefore, we're able to do quite well in that regard.
That's absolutely stunning. Those numbers are incredible. 5-fold increase in retail investors. And as you say, of course, it's fantastic. You're offering digital tools. You've got the online simulator for students to play with, which is marvelous. But a lot of it goes back to old-fashioned meet and greet and shoe leather being worn and car tires being worn out as you drive across the country. It reminds me, actually, we had a great show a number of months ago with Rod Gravel at Blondon, who was the man who brought the South African commodity markets alive over SAFEX and travelled the length and breadth of South Africa, which is quite a lot of length and breadth to travel, talking about all of those sorts of things and organizing barbecues with the farmers all across the nation so that everybody could understand just how they could use those commodity products. I applaud you. It's really, really fantastic. It's such an upbeat story. And 8 years as CEO. And also, I mean, 100,000 investors, that's a very, very healthy number. I mean, I used to run Cybex, the second stock exchange of Romania. And when I ran that 20 years ago, the entire retail population of investors in the whole of Romania wouldn't have fitted a medium-sized football stadium at that stage. It was about 50, 60,000 retail investors across a nation of 21 million people. You've added 5-fold increase to over 100,000, filling a very substantial football stadium in only 8 years as CEO. That's an incredible testament altogether. Let me just follow up. Women on It, thank you so much for asking that brilliant question. And Women on It are saying, thank you, Thapelo. Excellent answer. Are there any developments in terms of bridging the gender pay gap or diversity initiatives in Botswana? Wishing you and your nation all the best of luck.
Thank you very much. You know, I think in terms of the gender initiatives, I can tell you now that, you know, even at the exchange, about 65% or so of the workforce are women, which is quite significant. And for a long time, majority of the people in management, actually about 60% or 65% people in management are also women. We have made a deliberate decision in order to participate and also encourage a lot of women participation in the market. We participate in the World Federation of Exchanges opening bell every year. We celebrate our Women's Day opening bell ceremonies, where we call upon prominent women and also young women in the sectors to really participate in the stock market arena. But in Botswana, I think there's a significant number of women in the financial services sector as leaders, as CEOs, also in the listed entities. We have a significant number of CEOs who are women, and therefore I think we have been able to really deal with the issues of gender gap in a more positive way.
That's fantastic. And in fact, Women on It are jumping back in immediately to say 65% of women staff in the exchange, and indeed having circa 65% in management at different times, is a very, very impressive number. Well done. Certainly blazing a trail, it has to be said, on every possible level in the Botswana Stock Exchange. It's just incredible. So you had this incredible term, 8 years in Botswana. You've seen the economy revolutionized in so many ways. And you've taken the decision while you're absolutely at the peak of your powers to move on. It must have been a difficult decision to make.
It was a very difficult decision to make. I mean, look, Patrick, 2023 was the best year in the history of Botswana Stock Exchange in terms of the number of listed instruments, record turnover levels, the highest market cap ever, massive profits in terms of the organization itself. We actually achieved huge numbers in every matrix. The returns in the index, the number of listings skyrocketed, and therefore then came an offer outside Botswana, which I then decided to take. But I cannot confess it was quite a very difficult decision to actually take. But of course, also I think I took the offer also because I'm going to a very ambitious country, a very beautiful country with beautiful people, and therefore I'm content.
Now, that's a very interesting challenge. I know we can't really talk about it officially, but it's a very, very exciting opportunity because you're going to be going forward. You're going to become the head of the regulatory authority, or at least so the rumors tell us on the street. I don't believe it's been officially confirmed so far, but it's going to be quite interesting moving to, I mean, a still substantial landmass, but nonetheless a country that's roughly about a quarter the size of incredible Botswana, but with 20 million people. That's going to make for a very, very interesting challenge dealing with a very different kind of market and financial and economic dynamic.
Definitely, and you know, as a person, I mean, I've successfully managed to do what I did in Botswana, and you know, I took a deliberate decision to take my career international, and I think Rwanda became the country of choice, and I'm looking forward to the challenge, and I think I'm going to have a good time in contributing to the development of capital markets in Rwanda.
We're really excited to hear this, and we're really looking forward, actually, Thapelo, to hopefully getting you back on the show in a year or two's time, and you can tell us all about the exciting things that are happening in Rwanda. Because the one thing that I think you know from leading a stock exchange, and we all know from being involved in that world and leading markets, is although people talk about stock exchange competition, the truth is the competition is to manage to harness as much growth as you possibly can for your own nation or whatever nation you're working in. And the opportunities in Africa right now are absolutely incredible. And certainly we've seen that from a series of different people that we've had on the show over time. Of course, there was Tian Baswin, who I mentioned earlier, talking about Namibia. There's been yourself talking about Botswana, with Rod Blondin, Chris Sturgis talking about South Africa. In fact, Chris was talking about Africa more generally and the commodity markets and derivatives. We also had, of course, a discussion about Smiley Coin with the fabulous Gunnar Stephenson coming from Iceland, but he's deeply involved in trying to help economic development, particularly in Kenya, through his unique cryptocurrency, the Smiley Coin. So it's all to play for. There's so many exciting initiatives going on. Thank you, incidentally. I'm just hearing in my ear from the producer that John Holzman is noting the fact that he's been dragooned into PR work and can't leave Milan for the time being. Totally understand that. We've all been there, John. It's vitally important you continue to get the realist message out there, and I wish you every success with the future, the last best hope. Hopefully someday when it's all quietened down, we'll manage to get you on the show and we can talk about the wonderful world of American politics, wherever we'll be at that point in time and whatever our position in the world, depending on whether it's before or after November's American elections. Anyway, Thapelo, you have had this incredible run. You're now moving. It's going to be a very, very interesting move heading towards Rwanda, which obviously is going to be a different vision on the world. What do you think are going to be the most interesting? Just looking back at Botswana, what do you think are going to be the most interesting things we should be watching for in the Botswana capital markets and the economy? Presumably one of them is going to be the possibility that we see the Botswana Stock Exchange being listed in the near future.
Definitely. And the other thing is that we have worked so hard in the previous years to build a pipeline of listings. We created a mentorship program for small and medium entities 3 years ago. We have graduated 60 companies, and majority of these companies now understand how the stock market works, and they are seriously considering listing. And this should open up a gateway of more listings in the Botswana market. And most importantly, as the first stock exchange in Africa to pioneer exchange-traded funds, we have had tremendous success in terms of trading of exchange-traded funds in this aspect. And therefore, we are now going to be having more listings in terms of exchange-traded fund actually this year or later this year, because we've been working very hard in terms of that. And also, we implemented the new CSD in 2023. We should be now seeing the launch of some of the modules that were delayed in the implementation to actually boost the IT capabilities and the sophistication of the CSD in Botswana. Those are some of the general highlights that are coming up, which we have been working on for a number of years in the BSC.
That's really, really exciting. I mean, the ETF business is quite incredible, and you have indeed pioneered them in Africa. I'm just curious, the CSD, what software does that run off?
I think the CSD is supplied by a company it's a Belgian company called CMA, and I think it runs on Oracle.
Right. That's very interesting altogether. And it's great to hear that you're getting new modules coming in from that in the near future. And there was one other thing, actually, I just wanted to pick up on, which was I'm so impressed at how the Botswana Exchange, as you mentioned, has had a series of quite significant dual listings. Because certainly when it comes to exploration, mining, those sorts of companies, we think of their dual listing haven as traditionally having been to your south in Johannesburg. That's quite an achievement for Botswana to manage to get multiple listings with some of those major Western-oriented diamond and mining companies.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, there's a lot of mining activities in Botswana. There's a lot of interest in Botswana. Botswana itself as a country have not really been fully explored in terms of its mineral wealth, say for diamonds. And a lot of these companies, I think, are taking a deliberate decision to not only mine our minerals, but also to share the wealth coming from the minerals with the citizens by listing on the stock market and giving the citizen or local citizens an opportunity to buy shares in the mining operations.
That's fabulous. Such a great vision and such a great opportunity. No wonder that under your CEO-ship, you managed to see that five-fold growth to over 100,000 people in the retail investor community in the nation of only 2.6 million people. Fabulous stuff altogether. Thapelo, I wish we could talk for longer. There's so many exciting topics here, whether we're looking at Botswana or indeed also looking to the future in parallel in Rwanda, which we very much look forward to discussing at some stage in the future with you when you get an opportunity to get your feet under the table there. However, for today, let's go to our traditional question we ask everybody on this show. And Thapelo Tsheole, thank you very much for joining the show today. Where do you think the capital market revolution goes next?
I think it's quite clear. The capital market revolution is going much more to digital type of means. It's going into a direction where we're going to see a lot of interconnectedness among markets. You can know that in Africa, a lot of African markets now as a priority are interconnecting their stock exchanges. And this, I think, is going to be the trend in terms of technologies-based digital asset interconnectivity is going to be the future of the African market. or all other markets that are going to be in the world. And most possibly, we will likely to see consolidations and acquisitions, and also just one platform servicing several countries as market.
What a fascinating vision altogether, Thapelo, and one which I think is, as you say, eminently achievable. Thank you as well on LinkedIn. We've got a great comment. Thank you, Thapelo, for your unwavering dedication in attending the interview despite the challenges, including the unreliable internet connection. Who knows what cable was playing up there between well, halfway across the world, effectively, where we were managing to connect to. Although we couldn't see you, your enthusiasm was palpable in your speech. I totally agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that LinkedIn user. It's been fantastic. Thank you very much also to Rombeat, to John Holzman, Women on It, for joining the show today and asking questions and making comments. Thapelo, it has been a joy to hear another fascinating, wonderful, positive tale about what's going on in Africa. We look forward to monitoring and seeing what happens in Botswana and Botswana Stock Exchange going forward. We're very, very interested to see how you progress in Rwanda. And of course, Exchange Invest salutes you for being such a pioneer of making sure that demutualized, digitized, and indeed all-round excellent markets are available to a rapidly growing and better educated fraternity and sorority in particular. Let's not forget that 65% of staff within the Botswana Exchange who are interested, passionate, and fascinated by markets. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick L. Young. This has been a stunning hour once again with Thapelo Tsheole, the outgoing CEO of the Botswana Stock Exchange. Next week, we've got a conversation with somebody, good grief, who I met. My goodness. Well, when you look at that youthful figure, you wouldn't believe I met him first nearly 40 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. IPO-VID 144, what an appropriate Fibonacci GAN number to manage to hit, is going to be with a seasoned trader and technical analyst, Jason Sen. You can catch that next Tuesday. It's going to be a recorded show because actually the curvature of the earth just doesn't work for us on that particular day, because I do believe Jason's going to be in Asia. Looking forward to that one very, very much. A life floor, London Stock Exchange floor, and electronic trading veteran for over 25 years. But today, ladies and gentlemen, the topic has been Botswana Rising. Absolutely magnificent show with Thapelo Tsheole. Thank you very, very much for your time on the show today, Thapelo. Let me say a huge word of thanks to our magnificent production crew today who worked so diligently to present this show. Thank you, Janella, Rushlin, Racy, and Beata. This has been IPO-VID number 143 with Thapelo Tsheole. Catch us every day for the water cooler of the Bourse business, Exchange Invest. You can subscribe via exchangeinvest.com. My name is Patrick L. Young. If you're looking to have a market built anywhere, just give us a call or send us a DM. And I wish you all a great week in life and markets. Thanks for watching.